Hey everyone, it is Brittany here with Greenery Floral. I wanted to do a video today on how we design our contemporary arrangement style. Now, I'm gonna preface this by saying that we are still not at a point yet where I have enough flowers coming off of the farm and enough floral and foliage that is local to us. So I am going to be supplementing some of the blooms and the foliages with stuff that we do get from our wholesaler. So I just wanted to start by saying that this is more for the skill of the design rather than focusing specifically on local flowers themselves. We'll do another one of these kind of in the summertime and the spring when we do have more of those flowers kind of coming off the farm. But for now, we are talking about fundamentals of design and we are gonna get into today's video. So let's get started. Greenery Floral Co. is a 2.5-acre cut flower farm and boutique floral shop located in small town Southwestern Ontario, Canada. We began growing flowers in 2019 as a way to find joy and beauty amidst the struggle of raising our medically complex child. In 2023, we opened our dream floral shop in our little hometown, bringing modern floral design, our favorite luxe imported blooms, and seasonal local flowers to our community. Welcome to our little flower-filled world. We're so glad you're here. Start off, you want to pick a vessel that you actually enjoy the shape of. Right now, we are looking at a very contemporary, compote style. It's got the little bottom. It is ceramic, so this is not a plastic vessel. I personally like using a lot of ceramic vessels in our everyday shop work because they are high quality and they can be reused for things like plants. So once the arrangement has died back for our customers, we always recommend for them to reuse these pots if possible for the plants that they have in their home. Normally for our standard $60 to $65 sized arrangement, which is what I would charge for what's going in here, we use a vessel that's somewhere between 4 inches wide to 4.5 inches wide. This is one of my favorites to use. It's a little bit more contemporary. But this one here, this nice white one, which also comes in black, this is a pretty standard vessel for us. It's nice and clean, streamlined, very, very classic, but still ceramic. I like these better than plastic. Already we are aiming to feel a little bit higher end with the flowers and the blooms that we are creating today. First things first, we are gonna be doing this foam free. I'll do another video on the different mechanics that we use in some of our arrangements, specifically around what I would use a flower foam for versus what I would use something like a standard chicken wire for. But the gist of that conversation is that we also do a lot of funeral work and you can't put open water on a casket. So until we have a viable option in Canada for something that is reusable, like an agri-wool or something else, unfortunately when we do sprays, we just cannot be using open water for those. Now that said, everything else we use chicken wire and plastic where possible, and so that's what we're gonna do. These heavy duty Oasis wire cutters are one of my favorite tools. We get those from our wholesaler. You can find these probably anywhere that sells Oasis tools. It feels nice in the hand, they're really sharp. Don't cut yourself. Ashley's probably just gonna pop in and out from behind the video because she's filling orders while I do this. Okay, when you are creating your chicken wire, you are looking to create kind of an egg ball shape. It is not helpful to have the chicken wire too big and too tight because it's going to be really hard to stick your stems in. If you go that route, you want it to sit comfortably in the vessel like this. I will always go over and give it a good tape as well because once the stems start getting in there and things get heavy, you want to make sure that your mechanics are stable. Normally I'll match the tape to the type of vessel. So if we're using something light like white, I'll use my white floral tape for this. And if we're using darker vessels, so blacks, greens, blues, I'll use the dark green standard Oasis floral tape. If I'm doing something glass that requires being taped, like grit tape, I will always use clear tape for that because you don't want to have a colored duct tape style tape like this on a glass vessel. Two reasons. One, it's really, really difficult to clean that crap off the sides later. And secondly, it looks bad. So always go for clear when you're doing glass. We're gonna fill this up with water. I will be right back. All right, so now that we're back, it's important to keep in mind when choosing foliages for arrangements like this that you want to choose something that's kind of airy. If you have something that is too heavy, it's really going to make the whole arrangement feel really heavy and have too much foliage in it. For this style, we're going to use like a modified asymmetric triangular shape that also brings in some of that like beautiful S loop that is popular in floral design right now. The greenery that I'm going to use is, I'm going to use thlaspi. This is coming into season right now in Canada, though I think the early crop right now is from the US. Don't at me. We have oregona or oregonia or boxwood, which I love. This is one of my favorite foliages to use in general. If I was to choose between using like an Italian ruscus or using a boxwood, I would choose boxwood every time. It smells great, it's long lasting, and if you're really particular or patient about it, it will also start to root and you have free plants. Don't do that. I have some here that I've actually already cut down to size. So basically when you're using and starting here, you want to use your foliage to create like the shape of the arrangement, right? I'm not going for an arrangement that's really heavy on foliage. I want the flowers to really be like the bulk of what I'm designing, but I want to make sure that I'm kind of creating like a little garden-y style base for my arrangement here. Normally with this, I don't worry too much about counting in like 1s or 3s or 5s because we are going for filling the vase rather than like paying specific attention to like how many pieces of the foliage goes in. Some designers will be like, fill your whole base up with foliage so that you can't see the tape anymore. I don't do that because when I start to fill my flowers in, I'm going to be creating enough like dimension through how we kind of situate them in the vase to kind of deal with that problem, right? So you're not going to be able to see the, oh, I can't talk in design. You're not going to be able to see the like chicken wire base once we're all done here. And honestly, it's okay if a little bit of wire shows up. It's not really that much of a problem because it's just really showing that you are using water and nice mechanics to kind of create your arrangement. So you can kind of see like I am creating very much like a V shape. We're really getting that like triangular, like the asymmetrical right angle triangle business going on right now. And this is going to become like the foundation for the rest of my arrangement. Now that I've got my base in with my boxwood that I'm mostly happy with, I might stick a few extra pieces in here. Can add some of our wispier pieces of thlaspi. Thlaspi is cool because it has those little like white flowers kind of on the end here. I love foliages that add whimsy. It is a huge reason why I think that garden style arrangement is really popular. They're very airy and very light. It really allows the flowers themselves to shine. When I do this, I'm also kind of paying attention to the heights of like the foliages that I'm putting in. So we're really working on a bunch of different planes. It's important to use taller foliages to kind of help create the shape that you would like in your arrangement. So that would be kind of the base shape that I'll be working with. Now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna start adding some of my focals. Now for our main focal today, we are actually going to be using my favorite white roses. These are called Playa Blanca. I love these for events because they're just such a beautiful, like large-headed white rose. Every once in a while they'll come in, they'll have maybe like a little bit of bruising, right? Kind of on the bottom. It's very easy to just take those petals off. It won't hurt the rose. It's the same thing as removing the guard petals. And then as we did the wedding bouquet, if you want to get your roses to open a little bit, flip them upside down and spin them at the stem, you will get a nice open bloom. When you are creating an arrangement, you always want to follow your groups of odd numbers. So the brain naturally likes to have odd numbers, and we like things to not be completely on the same plane when you're sticking them. When I talk planes, I'm talking like math here, so we're talking about like graph planes, right? You want to create different levels and steps as you're going up in the arrangement. I never ever put my main focal flower in the center. You always want to work in triangles, and part of that is learning how to put your main focal flower slightly off center. Doing that is going to give your arrangement a lot more visual interest, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to design this specific shape, because part of an asymmetrical triangle is the asymmetry, right? That's kind of integral to that design shape. So we want to make sure that we are incorporating a low set but not centered focal flower. This will become the focal because the flower that I'm going to put right next to it is actually going to be smaller in size, and so that's going to become like a filler bloom instead of a focal bloom, which is automatically going to draw the eye over to this flower here. Now, I am a big fan of not having my rose as the highest bloom up. For some designers, that works really well for them. For us, I'm going to probably use something like a veronica to give it that height. My third one, see, I've got one triangle kind of going here. We're gonna have a space here that's not white. And then the back side here is where I'm gonna put my next one, so that you're getting the fullness of the colors kind of across from each other here. So you'll get that complementary white at the back. So when I stick this in, you can kind of see from your angle here, we're really staying within that asymmetrical triangle shape, right? We've got 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 here, and that's what's going to continue to create this shape here, right? We're going for very much that triangle inside that vase. Now, once I'm done that, what I'm going to actually do is take this alstromeria here. Now, this is local. We have talked before on the channel, we actually are very lucky to have one of the best Canadian alstromeria growers right here in my hometown, which feels like a very random thing, but they are fabulous. And so this is one of their alstromeria. This came into our shop yesterday, so it's still nice and closed, which means this is gonna last a while in the vase. We're gonna cut this down to size, and I'm actually gonna place this right in the center of the arrangement. And then when you look kind of down on top of the arrangement there, you're actually starting to see less of the mechanics and more of the actual flowers. The reason I set that right in the center is because it's gonna hide those mechanics, but also because this is pretty much the only yellow that I'm using. That yellow is gonna hit all of my points in the arrangement that I need it to, so that the colors feel balanced. And having it lower set is important for alstromeria because it's a flower that's going to kind of continue to bloom. It becomes a filler like as it blooms. And so you don't want that sitting really high up because it's going to look really weird when it starts to bloom. You really want to understand the shape and the blooming process of the flowers that you're putting in, so that you can kind of use them in a way that is going to help them excel in their job as flowers. You don't want to set your flowers up for failure from the start, right? We want to make sure that we are creating something that's going to be long lasting, but also so that you're not putting a flower in a random location so that it will look silly. We don't want to do that. Next thing I'm going to add in, because we're going very much with a spring look this time, is this beautiful locally grown veronica. If you have any leaves on it that are just kind of not surviving, you can pull those off. Blooms on veronica last quite a while. Again, when we pull the leaves off, we've talked about this before, I call that editing your flowers. Don't be afraid to do that. Not everything needs to stay attached to your flower the whole time. Now, because we're working primarily having this side of my arrangement be the height of my triangle, I'm actually going to stick that veronica up there to create the point of your asymmetrical triangle. I'm going to reinforce that with a little bit of farm grown. This is ours, so a bit of farm grown pussywillow here. Every time you use a woody stem, you want to make sure you give it a good slit up the bottom. It's going to help it last longer. Of course, making sure that you're still following that nice triangular shape. Now, I have a real treat today because we have been slowly starting to harvest stems of green bee grown anemones, which is really, really exciting. So the varieties I have here are still very short, but they'll work for what I need. This one is the anemone minstrel grape. These here, these two are the Rosa Chiaro, which are those beautiful blush pink anemones. When these open, they kind of maintain that lovely pink on the inside. And then randomly, in a mischief, we had some red. I'm gonna put this in here because I want to. So we're gonna roll with this. Again, working on multiple planes. You can see by me sticking that anemone in here, I'm creating steps up. So 1, 2, 3 up in the arrangement there. This grape one is kind of standing on its own. So I'm gonna set it kind of at the back here. Perfect. And then I have these two. Now normally I would use 3 of them because I like to have, you know, 3 of the same colors. But because I have this pink here, you can either use your groups of 3 in color or you can use it in stems. So for me, my third, so I would have 1 red, 1 purple, and then my third pink would actually be the veronica because it is in the same hue, right? There's nothing worse than like, so for instance, originally I thought about adding this gerbera to this arrangement, and I'm not actually going to do that because the pinks aren't quite the same color pink. You can see this one here is very much a hot pink. This one here is very much like a baby pink, baby girl pink. These have more of the hot pink undertone to them, so I'm actually going to add these in. And the way you can do this is one of 2 ways. You can either color block your 3s into the same section of your like triangle of your arrangement, or you can use your triangle, so and place them in varying points throughout the arrangement so that you're bringing that color palette and like that color to different parts of your arrangement. That's what I'm going to do on this one because I'm already going for a very eclectic look. So we're going to have 1 anemone, and again, I'm going to put this here because it's smaller than the rose, so it's not going to act as a competing focal. And then the second one, I'm going to flip that around the back here, and I'm going to set kind of on this side here. And you can likely see already from the top, 1, 2, 3, you're creating that triangle. Okay, so next we get into some of our fillers. I have these beautiful blush pink mums, and I believe these are actually local. We're starting to get into the local season for mums, which is really, really exciting. You have a stem like this, you're making a low set arrangement. You're just gonna cut these all down. Once you've got your mums kind of like, you know, cut down a little bit, you don't really want to put an entire like huge thing of mums right in your arrangement because it's gonna be way too clustered. It's gonna look weird. We don't wanna do that. But when you cut them down, you can actually use them as individual flowers in the arrangement and really kind of allow them to like stand on their own. And you can use some of those like ones that are center as focals to bring down into your arrangement and hide kind of behind your focals there to create some of that depth, which we like. So I'm just going to use these to kind of fill some spaces, also paying attention to my thirds because we still have some lisianthus to add into this as well. When you have taller ones like this, you can either cut them down or you can use them on the sides to help create a little bit more shape to the arrangements. Now with the Lizzie, I never stick lisianthus into an arrangement without like a short arrangement like this without cutting it down. All of these flowers come branching, and so you want to make sure you give yourself much more manageable pieces to work with. This actually worked out really well for me because these are not blooming yet, which gives me 3 like good pieces of Lizzie with kind of like partial blooms on them for my group of 3, right? Like that. don't necessarily have to take those top leaves off the lisianthus if you don't want to. I'm going to on some of them because I don't want all that extra bulk. And then you're just gonna stick these in. Again, following either the groups of 3, you're gonna come across the arrangement or you're gonna work yourself in triangles here. Use these to create a little bit of height. Especially this one here, which doesn't have any active like open blooms on it, but it does have a nice stem length. So what I can do is kind of use that as a part of my step here, just helping to create that triangle we were talking about. Now I can see right off the bat looking at it here, I need one more thing in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump into the cooler and see if I've got any little pieces of anything that I can use for filler. So for instance, this little piece of wax flower, I'm gonna stick in, because it's an offshoot, it's been paid for elsewhere, so I can just shove that into my arrangement. But normally you would make sure that all your stems are accounted for when you're doing pricing. Always keep jars of like off pieces when we have things like branching carnations or mums, any of those things that like won't fit into a particular project that we're doing. We keep those aside in what we call the bips and bobs jar. Very professional sounding words there. But this will give me some extra things from color palettes that I need, and I can add some of these flowers here into my arrangement. One of the ones I am going to do is this white mum. Space up there, and because I want to keep in groups of my 3, I have the carnation I put in there, so I'm actually going to stick an additional one over here. The last one will go just in the center, right there. There we have it. So that, friends, is how we do garden style arrangement. I'll post the recipe for this down in the description of the video, so if you're wanting to like follow along. Now, pricing on this, I did this ahead of time, so I already know we'd be charging about $65 for this. It's important to bear in mind these are early season anemones for us, so not going to be getting like the full like $3 a stem at the wholesale market that I would be for this. So I'm looking more at like $1.50 because they're like yay big, and that some of them have like funky insides, but they're still pretty and they do the job that I want them to. But yeah, so that, my friends, is the arrangement. Nice asymmetrical triangle with a nice modern face. Of course, if you have any questions about how we create some of these arrangements and you'd like some more detailed tutorials, please leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day. Bye.